This is the Engwe LE20. This is Engwe's first entry into the cargo bike market, and this is also a few firsts for me, this being my first review of a cargo bike, my first experience with a torque sensor, and my first dual battery bike. But this is not my first ride on this bike. I took this bike out on an extended 56-mile ride a few days ago, and I can tell you right now, the battery life on this bike is absolutely phenomenal. Today I'm doing this ride from Xenia to as far as Springfield as I can get. Yes, that Springfield. I'm doing this portion of the trail today because it's an uphill ride for a good section of the trip, and it will really put an e-bike battery through its paces. When I did my previous battery test with this bike, I only used one battery, and the bike took me 50 miles carrying myself, which I weigh 200 pounds. I also loaded the bike down with about 40 extra pounds of camping gear, and I rode the bike in pedal assist level 3, did some casual pedaling, and I maintained anywhere from about 15 to 18 miles per hour the entire trip, and I got about 50 miles out of one battery. So to me, that's pretty impressive, but because of user error, I only did use one battery, and I'll get more into that later. Today I'm going to be doing this test using both batteries simultaneously, and as I mentioned, a good section of this trip is uphill for a pretty long ways. It's likely unnoticeable due to the camera's fisheye, but this has been mostly uphill the entire ride now, and it continues like this for quite a long ways. I've been riding along in pedal assist level 1, and to me, this is plenty fast enough, but I want to go a little bit faster and put the battery through its paces. So I'm going to go up into level 3. And this has got me maintaining about 17 miles per hour, which for as far as I'm going to go today, not a bad idea for me to maintain this speed, or maybe even a little bit more. But with pedal assist level 3, I'm pedaling pretty casually, and we're still at 100% life on both batteries, which that doesn't really mean anything. I've only come like 2.5 miles so far, but we will definitely keep an eye on these battery meters. So speaking of the battery meters, here's the mistake that I made on my first ride, and I like to share this kind of information so that you learn from my mistakes. It's as they say, a smart man learns from his mistakes, a genius learns from the mistakes of others, so please learn from my mistakes. But anyway, as I was riding the bike, I noticed that the bottom battery meter, which is for the back battery, was depleting, but the top meter was not depleting. So I assumed that when the bottom battery ran out, it was just going to like automatically switch over to the top battery. Well, when the back battery ran out and the bottom meter completely depleted, the bike shut down, and I still had power to the screen, but the motor shut down, the battery, there was no power going to the motor, nothing. So long story short, what actually the mistake that I made was when I charge these batteries, when I pull them out and charge them in the house, I always shut them off. I didn't have the switch turned on the front battery, so when the back battery ran out, it was completely depleted of juice. So after messing around with it, looking things over, I turned that front battery on, and I was merrily on my way after that. But for that ride where I was only using one battery, I had ridden 28 miles using pedal assist level 3, maintaining a leisurely pace with my pedaling, and on the way back, I used throttle only and maintained around 20 miles per hour with the throttle. So on one battery, riding like that, which riding down was pretty efficient, riding back was not efficient at all, I got 50 miles. So there's no doubt in my mind that if you ride mindfully, you're going to easily get 100 miles of range out of this bike on a full charge on both batteries. And if you don't need that much range, they do have just the single battery option for this bike. But anyway, back to this ride. I am maintaining a pretty steady 15 to 17 miles per hour, and I'm watching my dummy meter here for my energy burn, and I'm trying to keep that pretty low, so that should really help to extend the battery life on these batteries. I am pedaling uphill. This is a torque sensor, so the more I give the bike, the more it gives me, and I'm just kind of pedaling pretty leisurely. I'm really more winded from talking than anything, but this part of the trail, as I mentioned, is fairly uphill for a pretty good section, and the bike is just trucking along. Now, speaking of our wattage meter, we can switch over and look at our wattage here and see how much power we're exactly burning. And the lower this wattage is, the less energy it's going to suck from the batteries. Right now, we're burning anywhere from like 120 to like, I saw it spike up to like 300 there. But we also always do have the dummy meter over here, which is less exact, but pretty much tells you the same thing. So if you watch that and you're able to keep this white bouncing meter low, you'll get better battery life. To prove my point, I'm going to stop pedaling now and just hit the throttle. So I'm not pedaling at all. And as we can see there, the power, so as you can see now, if I hit the throttle, it's going to spike. It spiked up to like 1300 there, and then when it hit 20, it dialed back down. And this is a 750 watt motor, but 1300 watt motor peak. So here I'm just doing throttle only and holding 20 miles per hour, but it's using about twice as much power easily, if not more, to maintain that 20 miles per hour going uphill. So now that our speed and cadence has normalized, we can see that the power is running anywhere from like 120 to spiking up to 300. So we'll definitely get more range as we help to pedal the bike rather than just relying on throttle only. But with that pedal assistance and these two giant batteries, these are both 19.2 amp hour batteries each, so it's a 38.4 amp hour system. This thing will just go and go and go, and it gets tremendous range. So on my first ride with this bike, I did encounter a few problems, but most of those problems just turned out to be user error. Like I mentioned already, the battery, using just one battery instead of two, making a rookie mistake, being a dummy and having the front battery turned off. That was on me. The other problem that I ran into with this bike, which was fairly easy to solve, was that even though this is a cargo bike or a bike built for passengers, it's not really set up for either of those right out of the box. And what I mean by that is, for cargo, there are not really any good strapping points to mount your cargo to because of the plastic side panels that this bike has. It was easy enough to fix. I just took them off, and that gave me some mounting points on the frame. Now this bike has some screw holes where the plastic side panels mount to. It would be easy enough, in my opinion, to just put some eye hooks in there, and that would give you some bungee cord mounts and strapping points and things like that if you really wanted to keep the side panels on there. The side panels are basically there as a safety feature in case you would, bring a little kid or anything like that along. It's to keep them from getting their legs caught up in the frame and back wheel and things like that. And so, as I said, it's not really set up for cargo or passengers out of the box. If you leave those side panels on for passengers, there's no place for the passengers to put their feet. So if you're going to get this bike for little kids, I would definitely look into some kind of like foot peg to put back there for them to rest their feet on. Otherwise, their legs are just going to be dangling, and to me, that just doesn't seem like a good idea. Engwe does sell extra accessories on their website to take care of a lot of these problems, but the bike doesn't have that stuff out of the box. The only other problem that I ran into with this bike, and it was because I took it on such a long ride, is that the seat for really long extended rides is not really comfortable. It's fine for like a 20-mile ride or less, but I took it on a 56-mile ride and my butt was really feeling it at the end. So if you're gonna do really long rides and spend a lot of time on this bike, I would recommend upgrading the seat. This being a cargo bike, you really can't have an independent rear suspension on this bike. Otherwise you would lose the weight capacity that you get with this bike. So you really could benefit from putting a suspension seat post on there. Again, if you're going to ride a really long distance. For shorter distances, like rides under 20 miles, the seat on here is going to be just fine. The other gripe that I have with this bike, and this is really kind of a big one, is that even though this is the double battery version of the bike, it only came with one charging cable. So I've got to wait for one battery to charge before I can charge the next one, and to me that's just kind of inefficient. I'd really prefer to be able to charge both of them at the same time, as I think most people would. In Yellow Springs, we got a little festival going on here today. Definitely explore more, but if I'm going to make it up to Springfield and back before the mosquitoes come out, I'm definitely going to have to pick up the pace a little bit. We're at almost 11 miles. Both batteries are dropping simultaneously now, so I was right about that. That's how it should work. If you see one battery at a different percentage than the other, it means that first thing you want to check is your power switch on the battery. But they are definitely both supposed to drop at the same time. But at basically 11 miles headed uphill, I weigh 200 pounds. I'm carrying probably an extra 10 to 20 pounds of gear back there. I don't know exactly, but maintaining anywhere from 15 to 18 miles per hour on this trip. Basically, we've dropped 2% of our overall battery life, and these battery meters are pretty accurate. A lot of e-bikes, you really can't trust the battery meters. Based on my last ride, these are very accurate. And again, I am just blown away by how efficient this power delivery system is and how little battery life it uses to maintain these speeds. Okay, so 14.5 miles of uphill riding, 96% battery life left, and we are in Springfield. And nothing against Springfield, I don't want to get political or anything, but this ride takes on a whole different vibe once you get into Springfield, and I'm just on the outskirts now. Once I get a little deeper, my spidey sense definitely starts tingling a lot on this part of the ride. But the nice thing is, at this part of the ride, the trail really starts to flatten out, so we're not dealing with any uphill riding. But it's pretty impressive that this bike has come 15 miles on the dot now, and that entire ride up to this point was uphill the entire way. My past experience with e-bikes, that part of the ride will just crush an e-bike battery. This thing is just doing really well with how well it's distributing power, and it's just really sipping a little bit of power from both batteries. We're down to 95%. We've come 15 miles, and it'll be using even less battery now because we're on flatter trails. Going back, it's going to be downhill all the way, so Again, I'm just blown away by how efficient these batteries are. Brakes are good. The brakes just saved that squirrel's life. Okay, we're on the Little Miami Trail now. I think this is Buck Creek Trail. I've never been down this way, and I heard there's an awesome campground out here, so I'm gonna do a little exploring and check that out. Okay, so I'm guessing this is Buck Creek Campground. Oh, nice. Look at that. Oh. Very nice. It's stuff like this that really accentuates why I love that I took up e-biking, because I've always liked bicycling, but with e-biking you can just cover a lot more ground and see stuff that you've never seen before, whereas with a normal, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love riding normal bikes, but you know, you cover so much more ground, you see so much more stuff that you normally wouldn't see and have access to on a normal bike, because you'd just run out of time. Overall, 10 out of 10, I do recommend. Oh yeah, very nice. I really do want to find these campgrounds, and then I gotta head back. I really don't want to get caught in the dark here. One, because this headlight on this bike is not the brightest, but mosquitoes out here are getting pretty bad right now, so the closer we get to dark, the worse they're gonna get. I see a sign. Camping area, all right. Okay, so this bike on big gravel, ooh, not good. It rides like a bread truck. Oh my God, I am not going back on a gravel road. All right, I never did find those campgrounds. I got lost and went all over the place, which ended up putting more miles on the bike, but we're at 30.5 miles. I got to ride back now. We're at 83% life on both batteries, and we got a downhill trip, so I have no doubt in my mind we're going to make it back, and I'm going to have to cook to make it back. I got it up in pedal assist 5 now, and I'm going to be riding back there a lot faster than we came out, so I should be burning maybe more energy, but we're going downhill, so I don't expect it's going to burn much. So I will give you a battery update when we get back. Yeah, we're doing a hill climb test through the grass here, and this thing just crushes hills, so that's nice in a situation like this where I don't remember where the trail is and I need to get back there. So yeah, at this point I'm just kind of racing sundown. I got to get back to Xenia before the sun goes down, because I think I'm not allowed to park in that parking lot after dark, but mainly I'm trying to avoid as many mosquito clouds as I can right now, but really more than anything, I kind of just want to get out of Springfield before it gets dark. I really wasted way too much time messing around exploring on this trip, but I'm kind of just cooking it right now because I am not at all worried about battery life, especially with this path being downhill the rest of the way back. And this bike can get up into the mid to high 20s for speed, but it is definitely not made for speed. The thing rides like a bread truck, and when you hit a pothole, especially at high speed, you feel it. Okay, so I am officially out of Springfield, and I do have some sunlight left, so I can relax a little bit now and let my spidey sense calm down. But battery update, we are at exactly 40 miles, and I've been riding this back in pedal assist level 5, just kind of doing casual pedaling, and we're at 72% battery life, so I am not at all worried about the battery running out. We've got, I don't know, probably about 15 more miles to make it back, and yeah, I'm not worried at all. I mean, as a matter of fact, if I wanted to, I could probably just go like throttle only all the way back. It's got enough battery life for it. And with this downhill grade, I'm not really using a whole lot of wattage here. What are you doing, buddy? I can see why people would use these bikes for hunting. It's starting to get a little cold. I should have brought a hoodie. But as for a mileage update, battery life check-in, we are at, looks like 63%, and we are at 49.1 miles. For most of the ride back, I've just kind of been lightly pedaling or just using throttle, so but we can't really take that for much. The trip back has been downhill all the way. So I think I mentioned this before, but if I didn't, I'm going to say it now. I know from running one of these batteries out before that these battery meters are actually accurate, unlike a lot of other e-bikes out there. A lot of e-bike battery meters are going to be all over the place. They'll stay at like 100% until you get to 50%, and then they'll drop like a rock. But these battery meters are actually accurate, and I love that. It says that we've got 62% battery life left, and we know that that is actually accurate. So I like to know and not guess. I think I'm almost back, but boy, oh boy, is it getting dark. All right, we are back, and not a moment too soon. That sun is settling deep into the horizon line. So as far as our final battery life checkup goes, we are at 53.8 miles, and our batteries are at 59%. One says 59%, one says 58%. What we got to keep in mind is that that trip was uphill the first half, and even though it was downhill the second half, I pretty much did like no pedaling on the ride back. So as far as this bike getting 211 miles like Engwe claims, I would say yes, with the ideal rider, under the ideal scenario, riding slow enough under the, you know, right speed, using the right pedal assist and the right torque. But I think that most riders can really expect to get minimum 100 miles out of this ride, and I would say that your average person is probably going to get more like 120 to 150 miles. I weigh 200 pounds. I'm carrying 10 pounds of gear. Now, the point of buying this bike is that you're going to load it down with a lot of stuff, it being a cargo bike, so that is definitely going to have an effect on it. But I think that, you know, if you're 200 pounds like me and you allocate like 40 pounds of gear for like camping, then you're going to get like 100 miles to a trip, and maybe like 110, 120. But the battery life on this bike is just absolutely amazing. One thing of note, after that almost 54-mile trip, I didn't stop and really take any breaks. My butt is sore. This bike definitely could use a seat upgrade. If you're going to do long rides like that, if you're going to do short rides, it's probably going to be just fine. I think anything under like 20 miles, you're going to be just fine. This seat's plenty fine enough for that. But for a really long ride like what I did today, you're going to want to get a wide, comfy, cushy seat. I've got this bike loaded down with cargo. What up, doggo? I hope you're not a mean doggo, because I'm not in pedal assist mode yet. Hey, buddy. Lucky. So I've got the bike weighed down with about 40 pounds of extra gear. I weigh 200 pounds, and the bike weighs 92 pounds, I think. I can't remember off the top of my head. I will put the exact bike weight right here. Anyway, I'm pedaling under my own power right now, and let me tell you, it's not something that I want to do for very much longer. As soon as I get past the first stop sign up here, I'm going to put it into pedal assist mode, and we're going to start doing the speed tests on this bike. But pedaling it under your own power, as heavy as this bike is quite a task, and it's a good substitution for leg day. Oh boy, we are past the first stop sign. We got a good straightaway now, so I'm gonna go through the pedal assist levels, and well, like I said, I could not get that into pedal assist fast enough. So here we go, pedal assist level 1. First I'm gonna do this with just throttle only, and then I'm gonna go through all the pedal modes. But pedal assist 1, with using the bike in throttle only, it goes through, it doesn't matter what pedal assist level you're in, it caps out at 20 miles per hour and then it cuts the power. So brake test here. Brakes are good. They are hydraulic brakes, hydraulic disc brakes, and they have a really good stopping power for this bike. But now I'm going to do the speed test in pedal assist mode. I'm going to go through all the pedal assist levels. I'm going to take off in pedal assist level 1 right now, but again, this is a torque sensor bike, something that I'm not used to. Most of the bikes that I have are cadence sensor, so this is going to take a little bit of getting used to for me. But here we are in pedal assist level 1. I'm doing very leisurely pedaling, and I'm up to like 15 miles per hour already. This is a powerful bike. It's a 750 watt motor but 1600 watt peak, so it really does have some oomph to it. But that's where we're kind of peaked out at pedal assist level 1. I could pedal harder and get more out of it, but if I go up to pedal assist level 2, let's drop off and get back to our normal speed for pedal assist level 1, which is, you know, anywhere from 13 to 15 miles per hour. But pedal assist level 2 now, going up to about 17. Level 3. $19, $20, level 4, about 22, and level 5. I can tell you right now, this bike is not really built for speed. So I'm really kind of pedaling hard right now, and it's getting us up to, I mean, I saw 27 there, but that's about all it's got. I really was not paying attention to the GPS speedometer, but it looks like it's fairly accurate. All right, time to do a walk around the bike. I've come about 11 miles, and as you can see, my bags are getting a little bit lopsided, a little bit saggy, but as far as it goes, they're holding up all right, and they're going to make it okay for this trip. But in the future, I would plan a better strap setup than what I'm going with right here. I may actually move this strap here, but that's all besides the point. We're going to do a walk around of the bike now so you can see what you get. Let me get my stuff off of the back so you can really see the bike in all of its glory. All right, now we can do our walk around. I can show you what we get with the bike. Up front here, we get 180 millimeter disc brake, and these are hydraulic brakes. They are single piston, and they do a pretty good job of stopping the bike. I don't think anybody's going to be riding this bike at really high speeds. This bike is not built for that, so these brakes are more than adequate for stopping the bike. We also get solid cast rims here, and I do like the solid rims. They're super low maintenance. They do add a little bit more weight, but I think they're always worth it. We got this little headlight up here. I think it's cool looking, but I've had this kind of headlight on another bike before, and this is not super bright. It's not made for riding at night, so it's better than nothing, but I would not plan on riding this bike at night if you can avoid it. We got a short bouncy fork up here. We got some adjustment, and you can lock it out. I busted this while I was loading and unloading it. So the bike is heavy. When you are loading and unloading the bike, take some extra precaution with it. We got a spot to mount a front basket up here. Up here we've got some good, thick, comfortable handlebar handle grips, and we've got pretty good brake levers here. These are our controls for the screen. It's a full color screen, but onto the shifter, it's a 7-speed Shimano shifter. Basic, simple, but works really good. We've got turn signals here, and our headlight control, you turn the headlight on by holding the plus button for 5 seconds, as we see it kicked on now. That gives a tail light too, and it does have a brake light in the back. This is our twist throttle here. This is not a folding bike, but you can fold the handlebars down for portability. Portability on this bike is not its strong suit, but it is nice that they added that feature where we can indeed turn the handlebars down for transporting the bike. So as I mentioned before, this did have some plastic panels back here, but I took them off so I could have more mounting points. These spots here, I personally would add some eye hooks in here so that you'd have more mounting points, but that's just me. We got Chow Yang tires, 7-speed cassette back here, turning derailleur and a derailleur guard, metal pedals, and we do have a chain tensioner here to keep the chain from sagging, because this is kind of a short bike with a long chain. That just keeps the chain up off the ground. And we do have a center stand instead of a kickstand. That makes it nice for loading a lot of heavy stuff on a bike like this, so that it's not leaning one side or the other. It makes it just a lot easier to pack the bike down and strap things down that way. And I can't find any kind of stamping on the motor, so we're just going to have to take their word for it. I do know that it is pretty powerful. We got Chow Yang tires. They are 20 by 3 inch tires, I believe. Yeah, 20 by 3. Over here on the other side, again, we've got a 180 millimeter hydraulic disc brake, and this is our racking system here. We've got some padding here for a passenger, and there are spots to mount a floorboard, which Engwe does sell a floorboard kit on their website. If you're going to take a passenger on here, especially if it's a little kid, I would definitely keep those plastic safety guards on here, and definitely get either some kind of peg or floorboard to put here, because you don't want a little kid getting their leg up in there. And I mean, personally, I would even come up with some kind of piece of hardware that would go across, like come up and go across here and mount into these points here to give the kids something to hold on to. And a sissy bar wouldn't be a bad idea either. I'm always paranoid about taking a passenger on a bike with me, and it's something that I'll probably never do. So when other people plan on that, I always give as many safety precaution warnings as I can, because you don't want a little kid falling off of there or getting their leg caught in there and getting hurt that way. So if you can avoid that, definitely avoid it. The seat is okay. It's fairly comfortable, and I mean, you know, it's going to be a lot better for shorter rides, say under 20 miles. I'm doing this 60-mile ride today, or I'm at least hoping it's going to be a 60-mile ride, and I can feel it already. The seat flips up so you can pull the back battery out, and speaking of batteries, we'll go over those right now. So you can get this bike in a single or a dual battery setup, and each battery has its own key. As you just saw, I used the wrong key to pull that battery out, but to flip that battery out, you just unlock it that way. It pops up, and then you can pull this heavy boy out, and hey, we got a place to lay it back here. It is a 48 volt, 19.2 amp hour, 921.6 watt hour. To put the battery back in, you just drop the pin side in first, and then the weight takes care of it. And to pull the back battery out, we just unlock it, pop it up, and there's our back battery information. It's a 48 volt, 19.2 amp hour, 921.6 watt hour battery. Again, Engwe branded. And to put it back in, you just line it up properly and drop it into place. Push it in, you can hear it click, and then you can lock it. And now it's locked and good to go. One of the other problems that I ran into with this bike was not the fault of the bike, just trial and error of how I wanted to mount cargo on the back of the bike. And I'll talk about my experiences with that from worst to best. Basically, the first time I rode the bike, I mounted about 40 pounds of camping gear on the back that was all held together in a duffel bag, and using bungee straps to strap it to the rack, and that was absolutely not the best way to do it. The gear wanted to shift sideways and work against itself in the straps, and it was just not the best way to do it. Also, when I needed to get into the bag, I had to unstrap everything, and it was just really more trouble than it was worth. So the second option I found was a lot better. Basically, I've got just a milk crate strapped to the back right now, and this is for more like smaller loads and more casual riding where you're going to be with the bike all the time. So there's no way to secure anything with a hatch on top, but that's what I've got right now. And the final way, if you really want to take a lot of stuff with you, but it's just a giant plastic crate with a lid and you can lock it, and you know, there's nothing to keep anybody from cutting the straps and taking off with the crate that way, but it's a little bit more secure than just leaving everything open, and you can fit a lot of gear in that box. So according to Engwe, this bike will accommodate up to a 440 pound payload. I weigh 200 pounds. That gives me an extra 220 pounds that I could put on this bike. I don't see myself ever using that much payload on this bike, but you might, so that's how much it can handle. All right, my final thoughts on the Engwe LE20, or maybe it's LE20, maybe it's French, I don't know, your guess is as good as mine. This bike does a couple things really, really well. It goes a long way and it carries a lot of stuff. As far as being a fast ride or a smooth ride, it's kind of rough, and it's not the fastest, but it's definitely not slow. This bike is going to be perfect for bike packers and people who need to carry a lot of stuff. I would say, like, you know, people who maybe want to go fishing and want to go fishing away from the more popular spots that you can't get to by car, and you know, you don't want to have to walk all of your gear back that way. This would be perfect for that. Hunting, I don't know if it would be a great bike for hunters or not. It's going to be a little bit tough to get through, like really tough terrain, muddy terrain with these thin tires, but you know, I personally wouldn't recommend it for hunting, but I guess it depends on where you're hunting. Anyway, I think that wraps everything up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.